Vision, future and trends. So in this lesson we will speak about how to find out what is your 5 to 10 year big audacious goal. And so we have an exercise for you where we summon ourselves into the future and write down what is that we don't want to happen. Do you know that, guys, it's so much more difficult to think about what do we want than what do we don't want. Ask anybody, what is it you hate? And they will say immediately, but what is that you want? More difficult. So that's why we write down like what is that we don't want to happen in 5 to 10, 20 years with our company. The second thing is what are current long-term trends that are happening. Blockchain, iPhones, like all these like phones, like touchscreens, AI, right? What is our long-term ideal outcome that could happen to our company, and what we must make sure we implement near future to achieve our long-term ideal. Point of this is to open up your mind to the long-term thinking. Because, usually the brainstorming and the long-term thinking happens this way. You're thinking where do you stand, what are your weaknesses and trends, and then you think about, okay, what's the reasonable but stretch to set strategic goals. But this kind of thinking goes to more into the execution thinking, not into strategic thinking. So execution thinking means that, okay, let's start using this tool to execute faster, or let's improve this KPI, or let's try to improve on this little area so we can immediately get a little bump in the sales. But what we need to do is we need to summon ourselves into the long future to start thinking what could happen and what we don't want to happen. And let me give you the example. Kodak didn't do that. They had like 85% of all the market, and they didn't do that. And then one day, boom, the digital cameras, they took over, and they were late, right? They were always stuck in their own niche. So, the framework is simple. We think, where do we stand today? And then we think about not good, so undesirable but realistic future to our business. If you run only Amazon business, then guess what? Competitors are coming along, prices are going cheaper. What should we do, right? Write down everything that's not good that we don't want to happen. There's many things here. Then long-term trends, the future context like blockchain, how these technologies can change your business. How can you start thinking in that terms? Remember we have 3 horizons, right? Near term and also long term, right? So what are the long-term trends we need to start looking towards to? And from these two, we get this long-term ideal, outcome, vision, intent that we could visionaire ourselves into 5 to 20 years, somewhere there, and think about, okay, what kind of products and services you sell, like how this will be sold in 5 to 20 years. Just trying to imagine, like, with all this technology and all these AIs and everything, and what's happening, where are you selling right now, and how are you selling right now. Like, we make this ideal for 5 to 20 years. You can choose whatever comes to mind, but ideal outcome. And from that ideal outcome, we go back to the near term. It's 1 to 3 years. So what must be true in, let's say, in 1 to 3 or 5 years for us to get to that ideal outcome? So this is the way we're going to build this strategic plan. And looking at this picture is basically, where do we stand right now? What must be true? It's the mountain we start to climb, and what's the long-term ideal? Where do we want to be in the future?